Being Human is a nationwide festival of the humanities, and so under the auspices of the University of Sunderland, we're talking here about mapping the borders. And so bringing together artists who are either living and working in the borders or artists who have come from outside the borders but are kind of interrogating the whole concept of borders and what does that mean. So the works in the exhibition are by 8 different artists who either live and work here or who've come from outside of the borders but have perhaps done a residency here or have just visited and are responding to perhaps the traditions such as the common ridings, or have walked the border, or have photographed it or filmed it, have embedded it in glass or drawn the riverways that define the border. So different media by different artists.
Maps can be read at many levels, and there are many ways of interpreting them, and one of the nice things about an exhibition like this is it provides scope for lots of people to interpret them in very different ways. Maps are never a neutral representation of territory. They select some things, they leave out others. They present a particular picture of the landscape, and that's the same as the work we're seeing here by these artists, very much their own personal representations of the land out there and the border landscape too.
The piece of work that's in this show is called Borders Are Well Observed by Crossing Them, and what I'm interested in particularly is transgressing borders. I'm fascinated by local ecologies and the interrelationship between what goes on in local ecologies and the way they can be self-sustaining, but I'm equally as interested in the relationship between local ecologies, regional, national and international ecologies as well. So the work's often about migration and looking at how the relationship over long periods of time between what might exist in a local environment and where that might have come from. What I'm curious about is the way that a lot of the language that we use nowadays, particularly say in the new nature writing, which I really like, but there's a hidden message almost there that we need to protect our boundaries. We need to almost put borders right around them and not let anything in. And there's a parallel, quite unnerving parallel between the way we talk about conservation in that, using that kind of language, and the way that we talk about immigrants, particularly say the Daily Mail or the Sun might talk about immigrants.
This map is called Riverways, and I drew it for the project Working the Tweed. I drew it because we needed a catchment map as a talking point. People gravitated towards it and wanted to locate themselves by the map, and lots of people didn't need any other information apart from the map itself to work out where they lived and where they'd come from, and it evoked a lot of memories about where they had been. For example, someone would talk about the route that they walked to school, and it also talked about changes that were happening and might happen in the future, so it really worked as a talking point. And it gave another impression of the borders, not so much a series of small towns, but as something that's really connected by the rivers.
Cinema Sark was a project that was originally commissioned by Environmental Arts Festival Scotland in 2013, looking at the River Sark where it forms the border between Scotland and England. I generally concentrate on areas and on subjects that I have a lived experience of. And really this is because a lot of the art that I respond to flows from a long and day-to-day lived experience of a place or a people or a culture.
So the book here, the Concertina book, came about through the planning and the recording of the walk. So I had a huge sheet of paper, probably the size of the wall behind us, through the OS map scale, sort of across the whole border as I planned how I would do it. And then that became really a sketchbook where I drew the map and the route, so there were different routes I took, images, things people said, observations, place names. I realised with the length of it, I knew I was going to make a publication, and all those big OS maps that I was folding in and out, I realised the border itself, with a bit of jigging around, could actually fold into a nice concertina where I could have the mapping and only text on one side and then keep the other side completely clean for images.